So a few videos ago, I did my Daniel 9:27 and my Revelation 1:20 video. And since I'm on the topic, I wanted to talk about the implications of what Trump has done and what it means in the future. Now, at first, I was thinking, this has nothing to do with the future and it won't lead in anything. But from the angle that, and I didn't really look into it, but I was seeing the headlines of my emails coming in about it. And it's a peace deal. So he didn't really end the war, as I had said before. He did, but it's a peace deal. So looking at it from that angle and from the angle that I was speaking from with my video, it kind of intersected. I was like, maybe I should take a look at this. So let's go back to ChatGPT. I'm going to start a new one here. I believe this would be, and we talked about this before, Daniel 9:25. You can hear that, can't you? The keyboard. My microphone is right here. No, wait. It's 9:27. Yeah, it's 9:27, not 9. How did I make that mistake? No, therefore, I understand that from the going forth to hang on. I just made the same mistake. It's 9:27. I'm gonna use I use the NKJV because it's easier to read than the KJV. Then he shall confirm a covenant for me for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring it into sacrifice and offering. And to the wing of abomination shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. So, now coming from this angle, this makes sense to me, as far as the KJV is concerned. So 1 week, 7 years. In the middle of the 7 years, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. Now, in this case, this doesn't make sense. Shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. That doesn't make sense in this case. But these two other things do. Alright, so what am I talking about? Well, in 7 years, from the peace deal, 2025 to 2032, that's 7 years. And in the middle of that is 2029. So what Trump has done with the peace deal would be broken in 2029. Which means that a war is going to have to break out, this, or ceasefire, if you will end in 2029. And of course, we already talked about what will happen to Trump in 2027. So people are going to say, and we've already heard this before, if Trump was president and had his third term, Israel would not go to war. If they do it to Ukraine, they're going to do it to Israel. I already see that coming. So what will happen in 2029? And why will it be worse than what Israel has already gone through? So it says, on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined. Let's define that word, because I know that some of you might not know what that means. It means the action of making a marriage or relationship complete by having sexual. Well, that changed the channel a little bit. The point of which something is complete or finalized. See, that doesn't make sense in the context of what I was talking about in my last video. But it makes sense now, because think of it like this. But it doesn't bring it in the sacrifice and offering. So, if we think about this, Israel goes to war with populations that are against Israel at this time. Now, at first, it might seem like the war that has just gone on with Israel, but in 2030, and I don't believe we talked about this, but yeah, we have. It was one of my first 5 videos I talked about this. It's when Ukraine pretty much denounces democracy, the Constitution of the United States, because it's based on the Constitution they never used. So it's like the seed grows up to judge the fruit being the United States and what they use with the executive branch and everything. So the United States becomes in a legitimacy war with the rest of the world, with the Middle East. And people start to question the validity of the United States. And they're going to use everything they can. Then, because of that, Israel loses more and more power. It loses more and more support. So, those countries that go against Israel and go in a fight, they're not just military or warriors. It's more also like a protest against the United States, saying, well, it just weakens the United States more and more. And that's how it gets worse. And then people would say, well, this would never happen if Trump was still president. I mean, you could argue that, but it has to happen, right? It has to happen. Governments, and it's not the governments that are pushing this war with Israel at this time. They're actually losing narrative control. It's just, Ukraine's saying all this, and the United States is losing. No one can control, not even Iran or Palestine or Israel can control the narratives of their own population. Their population is also, in a way, rising up against their own governments by doing this. And they're uncontrollable. And it's going to continue. And ultimately, you have to have a war or narratives, and there'll be a lot of infighting. So yeah, United States dissolves from the outside in, but also from the inside out simultaneously. And it all hinges on Israel. And it's the people who are pushing this, who would push this, well, they've already done it. And I've already talked about Israel and the Christians in America. They're just saying, well, Israel is the Holy Land, and all this and all this. And it's not. And that's when this is, which is determined is poured onto the desolate. Israel is not the Holy Land right now. The reason it's not in the modern day is because the borders were not restored. And it said that the borders will not be restored through military or politicians or anything like that. It talks about it being restored by a divine will. And this is how I managed to find about 927 with the NIV, was because I know that it's not because of military or politicians or any of that. or peace deals, it's divine will. But Christians say, well, we need to fight for Israel. Israel needs more weapons and all this. So in that way, the peace deal does make sense. But then it starts the prophecy of what has happened with 927. Let's see what Daniel 927 says. 928. Oh, there is no 928. I was curious what it would say after that. For the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away, then the abomination is set up. It just goes to. What about 9:1? He rates in 1002. What this is talking about, it happens, and people can use this in Revelation, but they never use the verse that I used for the stars and all that. So that's a completely new thing. But when they use this, Daniel 12:11 through 12, there'll be 1,290 days. 1,235 days. We'll pray later in the book. People use this to explain the rapture. That's when it's said that Christ returns and people will look at the sky and they all start to go into the sky and all this. I've talked about the first part of the rapture, but I didn't talk about the days. I don't believe I talked about the days on this channel. But I do know about the days. It starts. Would you let me explain how these 1,290 days connect symbolically to the 1 week, 7-year period of Daniel 9:27? It happens in 2029 on September 21st of 2029 is when Maria flies. We've talked about that. What is 1,200 days after September 21st? 2029. Now we haven't talked about 1,029 days. Since we're on the topic, since ChatGPT brought it up, what is 1,290 days after September 21st? It would be April 4th, 2033, which is 10 days before April 14th of 2033. And those would be the missing days. It's interesting. Write this down. Make a note of this. April 4th is 10 days or 11 days, depending on how you look at it. 10 days before April 14th, right? But on April 21st, there's a total of a missing 11 days missing from the Gregorian calendar. Those are the last 10 remaining days. The first 10 remaining days, or 11 days, is actually it's 10 days. 10 days on one side, 11 days on the other. I forget how I did this. But they were missing 21 days. Because from September 11th, which is Rosh Hashanah in 2029, then 10 days later is September 21st. So you got missing 11 days on this side. And then at the end of 2033, you have another missing 10, 11 days. So you add those together, you miss 21 days in total, which it shows itself on September 21st of 2029. So the 21st symbolizes those missing days on both sides. It was interesting when I learned about that. When I noticed that, when was that? Sometime in, it was actually in September of this year that I realized that. Actually, it was on September 24th, 23rd, 24th, because that guy made that rapture prediction, and I said, I know the day of the rapture. It's not what he's saying, and I want to make a video about that. And that was the terrifying video that I was talking about that I was gonna make, but I decided not to make it. He's got another prediction on October 16th. Today, actually. Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about him. I won't do it in this video, but we'll talk about him. And what he has said and what I can pretty much dismiss him in like a few minutes. And that's why we should do these videos, because you would know people like him, especially him, it wouldn't work. So that's all I wanted to talk about in this video and needed to talk about. But hopefully you took notes. I know that sometimes people have to rewatch my videos to catch all the things I've said, because it's a lot of information. But I'll end it here. So see you guys in the next one.